Hey, Clayton, in Hebrews 12:1, it says, "We are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses." Does this refer to people in heaven who can see our lives? Let me read this verse to you. It says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles." This verse actually points back to Hebrews chapter 11. Hebrews 11 is what we call the Hall of Faith. It's this list of people who have been incredibly faithful in following God. They heard God's promises, believed God's promises, and bet their lives on God's promises. And they chased after him more than anything the world had to offer. So they're examples of us of how we should run the race of our lives. That's what the author of Hebrews is pointing to. But when he calls them witnesses, what is he saying? A witness is someone who does two things. It is someone who sees something and someone who speaks something. So when we say, "I was a witness to that event," what we mean is, I saw with my own two eyes what happened here. Or we can say, "I was a witness in that case. I was a witness in that trial." And what we mean is, I said something about what I saw. So we see something and we say something. That's what it means to be a witness. So what were these people witnesses of? Could be two things. Could be they are witnesses of our lives. They're watching from heaven. They are witnessing the events of our lives unfold. That could be what it's referring to. Or it could be that they are witnesses of God's faithfulness. In their lives, they saw and testified to the faithfulness of God. So which is it? I think it's primarily the second idea. They saw God's faithfulness in their lives. Their lives speak about God's faithfulness to us. They were witnesses of God and about God. They are people who saw God and can tell you it's worth it for following him. So I think that's what this verse is referring to primarily. But I also think the first idea is true. I do actually think they can witness, they can see our lives. They can look upon us and know what we're doing. The reason I know this is because even though we don't know a lot about heaven, what the experience of life is like for people who have died but are still waiting for the resurrection, we don't know that, but we do know a few things. We know that they are in the presence of Jesus. We know that it's better by far. We know that they are resting from their labor. We know that there are good things happening. They are worshiping Jesus. But the specifics we don't know a whole lot of. So I can't describe to you what their experience is like. But there is one scene. There's one scene in the book of Revelation that is a picture of people who are in heaven right now, and it gives us just a little bit more window than the other verses. In that scene, those people are pleading with Jesus on behalf of people who are suffering on earth. They are looking at their brothers and sisters on planet Earth, and they're saying, they're being persecuted for their faith. Jesus, when will you make it stop? When will you bring an end to the suffering? And what this means is that they're aware of what's going on earth. They also care about what's going on earth, and they're talking to Jesus about what's going on earth. They're pleading to Jesus about that. Now, it doesn't tell us, do they know everything? Can they look in on anything that's going on earth? It doesn't say anything about that, and that seems a little weird to me, but maybe, right? So the question is, can my grandma see what I'm doing right now? I don't know exactly, but I think that she might be aware of what's going on. I think it might be similar to my grandma when she was in this life. She wasn't always watching me. She wasn't always in my presence, but she could get a report about me. She could understand what was going on. She had an investment in my well-being. She cared about how I was doing. And so she paid attention to my life, sometimes by looking directly at me, sometimes by just hearing about it. And perhaps that's what's going on in heaven. Maybe Jesus is filling them in. Maybe he's letting them look at some things, something like that. But what I know is that they care. Right? They care about what's going on with us. They're aware of it, and they are cheering us on. And in fact, in this case, they are talking to Jesus about it. Like, when will you intervene? How will you intervene? They've got a stake in our success. There's a phrase that says, none of us arrive until all of us arrive. And I think this is true when it comes to heaven. I think that when the people in heaven are there, they're saying, look, we're so glad that we're here. This is a wonderful thing. But the thing that we're really invested in is what's going on earth, and we want to see how it finishes out. And we want to see this generation succeed and future generations succeed, and we want to see the day when Jesus comes back and makes it all right, because that's the story we're invested in. And so I think in that way, they are witnesses, and they're cheering us on in our life.
Thanks for listening. If you've got your own questions, email questions@BibleSavvy.com. Like and subscribe to catch our regular episodes every Monday on the Bible Savvy Podcast.